I'm Matt Bouchard with REIT.com here in La Quinta, California for NAREIT's 2013 Leader in the Light Working Forum. Joining me is Will Teichman, Director of Sustainability for Kimco Realty Corporation. Will, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
What would you say is the biggest challenge of implementing energy use initiatives at a shopping mall REIT versus another type of commercial property owner?
Well, that's an interesting question. I'd say that retail is a bit of a different animal, and this is something that we talk about, as we come to forums like NAREIT and GRESB. I think the biggest factor that differentiates retail is the landlord-tenant relationship and the triple net lease. When we look at a typical shopping center environment, about 85% of the energy use takes place inside of the building, with the other 15% typically being driven by the common area. And so, in order to pursue those opportunities in terms of energy efficiency, it requires breaking down some of those barriers, those traditional barriers between landlords and tenants, and finding ways to pursue projects in ways that mutually benefit both parties.
And I know it may be hard to generalize, but in your experience, how significant are the cost savings that a company like Kimco is able to realize versus the expense and the cost for implementation?
I would just say in general that there are plenty of projects to go around, plenty of good, attractive investment opportunities with technology evolving in areas such as lighting, building controls, and other types of areas. The energy savings opportunities continue to appear. I think the real challenge is around finding models for investing in and recovering those expenses as a landlord. And those are some of the things that we're working on at Kimco to try to figure out.
And how actively does Kimco promote its sustainability efforts, and what response have you gotten from either tenants or the investment community?
As a company, we're very active in promoting what we're doing in the corporate responsibility and sustainability space. We have taken some initial efforts in the early years to respond directly to investor questions through forums such as the Carbon Disclosure Project and the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. Those were two early efforts to proactively put some information out there in forums that many investors can access that information and use it. As we move to the future, one of the things that we've decided to do as a company is to take it another step and to start to produce a more comprehensive GRI-based corporate responsibility report. And so in 2014, that'll be the first year that we start to put that information out there for investors. And we'll continue to have one-on-one dialogues with large key investors who are interested in what we're doing.
And if you were going to highlight one key project or initiative currently underway that kind of best exemplifies what you're doing at Kimco, what would that be?
I would highlight our solar energy program primarily because it so strongly addresses the landlord and tenant collaboration issues that we feel are the biggest driver of sustainability and energy outcomes at properties. Solar energy, in a nutshell, involves the landlord providing access to the roof space to deploy a solar array, which supplies energy to a tenant. And in that way, there are opportunities for this win-win type collaboration. The landlord is providing something that the tenant potentially couldn't accomplish on their own. The tenant is achieving a lower energy cost and more price certainty in terms of their energy. So it's a real win-win. I think it's kind of a pioneering example of that type of mutual collaboration that's necessary to solve for the big picture issues on our properties.
And what would you say is the biggest challenge you face in your role as kind of the sustainability head at your company on a day-to-day basis?
To be honest, I would say it is probably balancing the needs to effectively communicate what we're doing with the need to stay in a leaning forward position in terms of implementation. You've got to get things done in order to have things to communicate. But the demands on communication externally, particularly to investor groups and other stakeholder groups, continue to rise. And so we have to constantly balance the need to communicate what we're doing with continuing to aggressively move forward in implementing those initiatives.
Will, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
For more on this and other REIT news and analysis, be sure to visit REIT.com.